Are we hot?
Are we hot?
Yeah,
All right.
on the hot mic.
Good
Yeah.
afternoon. How's everyone doing? Excellent.
Woo.
Okay. Cool. So welcome to Azure SQL Database and Fabric. Better together. Who's been hearing a lot about Fabric this week? Yes.
Whoa.
Okay. That's great. We're here to make it even more exciting for you. So just some quick introductions. Hi, I'm Jess Schultz. I am a product manager at Microsoft working on Azure SQL Database.
And I'm Idris. I'm a PM as well in the Azure SQL org. I'm working on the near real-time analytics from operational sources into Fabric. And we're very excited to share this session with you all.
Yeah, so quick note, we only have 30 minutes. Fabric has a lot going on with it, so we're not going to be able to talk about everything with Fabric, full architecture, all of that, but at the end of this session, we have some Fabric PMs and us that are going to be here at the back. We've got our booth, so please, if you have more questions, stop by, say hi, let us know what we can help with. So to set the stage, who here's been using a version of Azure SQL within the last 10 years? Great, so we've really seen this progression over the last decade plus of going from SQL on-prem to SQL in virtual machines in Azure, our Azure SQL database offering coming out, maturing every single year. We introduced Azure SQL Managed Instance to help enable migrations and other workloads. So it's a constantly growing family of products. And now we want to talk about what's coming next. Because earlier this year, we introduced Microsoft Fabric. So Fabric is our new analytics platform, right? This is your one-stop shop for data storage, analytics, pipelines, Power BI. And how do you power your analytical workloads? You're going to have transactional data. You're going to have operational data. You're storing it in these other data sources. So that is what our session is going to be about today. But let's just take a look at what Fabric offers you. So again, one of the big promises of Fabric is this lake, the one lake, right? It's lake-centric. You have one copy of your data for use. You have open like the Delta Parquet format. So we are going to focus on how we are integrating that. It's designed for every business user. We don't have to be power users in every one of our technologies to take advantage of the features of Fabric. We are enabling not just developers and database administrators and analysts. We're giving our data to our entire organization in a series of consistent, usable tools, integrating with Office, and we're making it work for AI. Whose company is interested in AI these days? Like checking out the copilots, thinking about LLMs. And it's coming, right? Even Microsoft has been integrating it into more and more tools, and Fabric will be able to help you drive that. So what are some of the cases for integrating some of your transactional SQL stores into Fabric and its one lake? Well, I will tell you this. I have had to set up more than one ETL process in my life to move data from its operational data store to another data warehouse or to another system for analytics and reporting, SSIS, Azure Data Factory, other tools, and it can be complex, right? It can be time consuming. With Azure SQL Database and Fabric, we are going to be bringing the concept of no ETL to be able to have near real-time updates of your operational data in your one lake, and then being able to see that reflected in things like your Power BI reports, again, in near real time. This is definitely going to lower your TCO for your platform. Again, think of the time that you spend building these pipelines. Think about the compute, the storage resources, the troubleshooting time. If you have the ability to take data from multiple sources, put it in one lake, no ETL, no additional tooling, that's going to save the business time and money in the long run, make you look good along the way. And most importantly, that's saving time, which is saving money. Being able to go from your analytical information to true business insights very quickly. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Idris, who has been working on mirroring SQL database into Fabric to talk about this offering.
Well, thank you, Jess, first of all. I'm so excited about this. Before I go to the next slide, Jess talked about her career as, as a DBA and moving all these issues and with data. How many of you folks have a lot of pain points with ETLing, transforming, getting your reporting? Quite a few, many more? Yeah, I see a lot of heads nodding. I, as a developer, had the same issues. And what we are introducing now is something called mirroring in Fabric. Essentially, Fabric is, as we said, is a unified engine, which is a SaaS-based product, which has got all of the elements which, from all of your personas, whether it be a data engineer, could be your data scientist, your BI developer, your data analyst, could be your executives. All of these folks are all going to coexist in Fabric. What this is saying is we have various compute engines in Fabric and various sources which are coming into Fabric. You can use your data factory, your Synapse Data Engineering. These are all the product names within Fabric and uses compute engines from, you can use Spark, you can use T-SQL, you can use the Kusto query languages, all of those stuff. And the heart of the entire thing is OneLake. And you might have heard about OneLake. It is the place where the data is all replicated in a Delta Parquet format. So what is Fabric mirroring? It allows you adding any existing databases and or data warehouses to Fabric without ETL. Like we talked about earlier, zero ETL. And all the experiences are instantly work with the OneLake replica. So one of the key points here is, and I'm going to talk a little bit more in the next slide, is when the data gets replicated, it's a one copy. The original is your source DB, but there is a one copy in Fabric, and that's what we call the replica. And that's where how the various personas can coexist and work together. One of the other advantages of this replica is, and I've fought this in the past as well, querying against your source DB always has impact on your compute, your querying, and stuff like that. Once you separate that and it has its own replica, now you can do your analytical querying much more siloed out in a way so it doesn't distract your source DB. And that's one of the key areas of mirroring. So let's talk about how this works. So we have a SQL. How many folks are using Azure SQL DB? We're starting with SQL DB. Wow, good. Great to know. All right. So in the source SQL DB, starting with Azure SQL DB, we're going to take in Fabric what we call something as a SQL DB artifact, and you'll see each of these sources which are going to be lighting up. It's going to have its a specific artifact name. So for example, we have Snowflake coming, we have Cosmos DB, we have a lot of other things on the roadmap like SQL Server on VM. They're all going to be lighting up, and a lot more. We have this process called taking the data from source DB, which in this case SQL. There is a process in Fabric called a replicator. This replicator takes the data and converts it into Delta Parquet format. Right? And this is the initial snapshot of the data, and any incremental changes come in, it is always constantly polling and getting the data. The data is actually, when it's scraped off from the source SQL DB transaction log. So as and when your data is updated, deletes, inserts, any changes in any of your schemas, it's detecting it, and it writes it to a storage. And the replicator picks it up, and it writes it to what we call the consumption replica, which is the OneLake in a Delta Parquet format. And this is true for all of the compute engines. Whether it's data factory, data integration, Power BI, you bring any sources, all of them get written in one single format. And then what we're calling this is you can consume this using the SQL Analytics endpoint, so which is where you consume, you can do your querying, you can create views on Fabric itself, but you cannot modify the data on the right-hand side of the green side because your modification is on the source, because that's why we call it the one lake. All right. Moving on, let's talk about, oh, by the way, so yeah, I didn't build out the whole thing. There are these Fabric data warehouses you can consume through Power BI. You can have your data scientists, your AI engineers, all can use different workloads from this data. And we're going to show a demo around this as well. So why near real-time application? Why we call this out as the first thing is zero ETL near real-time application. In Fabric, you'll have the ability, with mirroring, you can have controls where you can configure the mirroring. You'll have the ability to say, hey, I want all the tables to be replicated. I want certain tables to be replicated, because not all the tables you may want to be replicating and doing analytics on. Initial snapshot will be created, after which, as we said, your DMLs, your insert, update, deletes will all be kept in sync with all the transaction. Replication uses under the hood a technology under SQL DB called change feed technology, as I was talking earlier, which scrapes off the transaction log, writes it to the storage, and then commits the log off. So there is a constant, and this is all being ensured with very minimal impact to the operational source DB. The transformation to Delta tables are automatic. That's what the job the replicator does. And we're also determining smartly as to any specific logic as while this replication has happened, when the sources change, making sure there's no major impact to your DB, and the computerization is always being very optimized. We also have detailed monitoring, which is available to view. So example, you can see what tables are being replicated, what was the last time it was refreshed. And we're starting off today as a private preview, but we're looking for all this feedback, what are specific areas you would want to see the granularity will be over the period of the few next milestones will be improving this a lot more. So having said that, let's kind of do a demo, right? And see. So we're starting off with the cloud databases, but we have roadmap. We'll also have like SQL Server and SQL on VM as well. It will be, yes.
Does it consume Fabric capacity to do this, or is it a separate process?
OK, so I'm repeating the question. The question is, does this consume a separate capacity, or do you use the Fabric capacity? So when it's taking this replication from your source DB and getting into the replicator process, the replicator compute is completely free. What compute you use on the Fabric side, for example, when you run your queries, or if you run any kind of reporting on that, that's when you use your Fabric capacities. Right. Any other questions? So your question is, what is the impact on the Delta log while the changes are happening on the source transactional side? Mm-hmm. Right. So we are using we are optimizing those data when it actually changes, the way we manage those manifests behind the scenes. So it's actually going to be scaled along with that. Great question. We're actually going to show that in the demo. So to answer the question is, any schema changes made on the source side will break the replication. And yes, in the product we had, it's an thing for SQL. That was a limitation. In this, we are going to remove that limitation, and more of the limitations going to be addressed. We're going to see that in a few. I'm going to, hopefully, in the demo, we're going to show, before I start the demo, sorry, any other questions?
When you say things are going to light up.
Yes. Oracle. DW team, do we have Oracle going to be lighting up soon? Yes, it's on the roadmap. It's backlogged, but it's there. All right, so before I do the demo, I just want to lay the foundation for the demo. The way what we saw, what Jess presented earlier about Fabric, the areas of complete analytics platform, the area of unifying the data estate. So we have a data which we're going to show you going to be mirroring from Azure SQL DB. We're going to have another source which is going to be sitting in a different cloud, in this case in AWS S3, right, which is storing the products data. The SQL DB is going to store the customer data. And we have another storage, ADLS Gen 2, which stores the customer addresses data. And again, the focus is not to show you all the features and show you beautiful Power BI reports and stuff like that. The focus is on data. And I'm going to, as we show the demo, I'm going to take an opportunity to pause in between to show you which areas as making changes are happening, we're going to try to demonstrate that. So when you use the feature of data warehouses, lake houses, and show you that. So let's start the demo here. So this is SQL databases and Fabric demo. So here we are in Fabric, going into a tile. We're going to, can you pause it for a minute? Yes, second? Yes. So there you go. Under data warehouses, when you go to Fabric, you'll see a mirrored SQL DB tile, and that's where you would go to create your application. OK, let's go there. No worries. And that's good. That's why we have some time here. It's going to make it more interactive. So if you all want to pause and if you want to preview it, we all can do it. Plus, we can also do another.
There we go. Now you can see it.
Yes, great. So once you click on that, it asks you to prompt and create a new name for the SQL DB artifact. So let's do that. And you do that, and it pops up. You give it a name, whatever your specific department or specific area it is, it creates it. And once it comes in, let's pause it for a second here. What it does is it shows you the list and see, do you want to mirror all your tables? And first of all, before that, let's ask you for your connection. So it gives you what server you want to connect to, what's your database information, your credentials. It also supports things like your AAD, which is now the Entra ID, as well as your SQL auth as well. So once you provide that information, it will then go ahead and say, it connects it and gives you a list of, can you pause here for a second? Yeah. Actually, now, we're going to go, CC option on there, it says either you want to mirror all the tables or you want to mirror certain tables. It gives you that flexibility. So also, if there are certain tables which are not qualified for whatever reason, there are some limitations. Maybe your column has some weird characters. It's going to identify that and show you as a warning and say, hey, it's not going to replicate you. So you know right up front. And you can also toggle. One of the things is if you select something and you control the tables, and then you add a new table in the background, it's not going to replicate for you automatically because you have chosen to decide which one. But if you say that, hey, I want to mount all the tables, or I want to mirror all the tables, that's where it's going to be automatically doing it for you. And we'll see that in the demo as well. So let's go. It's going to mirror the database. And what it does is going behind the scene, the replicator is being called, and you can see that the data is now being created. If you go 10 seconds back, yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, let's go see that. We want to show the monitoring screen, and there we go. We can stop there. Yeah, you can see the data is now running. I mean, the data is being replicated, and now there is a polling going on behind the scene. All these tables have been created. And you can see that one of the tables failed, and this for a reason, because we knew that it's not going to replicate that. So what we're going to do after this, we have the ability to go to a SQL Analytics endpoint in the SQL Data Warehouse, but we're going to go to the Lakehouse artifact and show you how this is going to work. So let's go into Lakehouse. So let's pause here for a second once. Here you go. So what's happening is we have another area called Lakehouse where you can actually, all of the data by the time is in one lake. So now you're anywhere in the estate of Fabric. That data can be connected through any of the engines. We are choosing the Lakehouse engine. So we choose, just like we did create a mirrored DB artifact, we're creating a Lakehouse artifact. You give it a name, and then we're going to do a connections to the mirror database, which we just did, and the other sources. So let's go run that. And as it's running, you can see the Lakehouse got created. You can see the user experience is very simple. You can see and you can pause you for a second. You see that there were tables and there are files, because Lakehouse is either the data warehouse, which is a SQL table-based structure, or a file-based structure. So we are going to create a shortcut to the mirrored SQL DB, which we just created a few minutes back. let's go, and there's an option here which says mirror the data lake, the mirrored, yep. And you'll see that particular mirrored SQL DB right here. You select next, you select which tables you want to select. In this case, we're going to select the customer table from the mirroring which we enabled. It's going to create it, and as you can see, it's successful, and that it will be added in that lakehouse. Similarly, we're going to create a new shortcut, and this time we're going to go select ADLS Gen 2. This is maybe the data coming from a Databricks. You sign in, giving the credentials. This is your customer address table. So we're trying to unify, we're trying data from multiple sources. Okay. Now that is created. Guess what? We have one more source. We have AWS S3. Let's get that as well. But remember, when we are creating a shortcut, it's not getting your data copying into one lake, because it's in place, and that's what data virtualization is all about. I had the longest time when I was working for a company, just moving that data and things like that, and querying, and there are a lot of virtualization engine. You have that built in Fabric. So now you provide the information, you provide the credentials for S3. Go ahead.
And I would like to say that as a, let me pause this. Right, as a, again, former DBA, having written ETL, how many of you have struggled with having multiple copies of that database, right? Like multiple copies of it, trying to keep them in sync, taking up that extra space, getting those requirements from your storage teams. Like from that perspective, I think this is a really great feature that we're introducing, capitalizing on that data virtualization to help eliminate yet another pain point. Again, reducing that TCO, just faster time to insight. Absolutely. So
Great.
Here we go.
Thank you, Jess. That gave me a good break there. So now we can, can you pause it for a second?
Yes.
You just saw that, what happened? Somebody, our friends, our data DBA and our community, they actually executed a script, and they created a table called table employee. And our friends in our data analysts, they actually added that as a shortcut, if you can see right there. And we're going to come back to that. So you can see there's some interaction happening. A new table just got added on that script, and it's available. Let's move ahead. What we're going to do is, since we have those 3 shortcuts created, we are going to now unify them together. We're going to go to something called the SQL Analytics Endpoint. Lakehouse has this. Data warehouses is the same thing. It points back to the same storage in your OneLake. And now we're going to unify. We're going to create a query builder. We're going to get these sources, and we're going to unify them together. We're going to join the customers, the products, and the addresses together. And this is a visual query builder. As you can see, the results are coming. Now, this is the unification of the data we were talking about from various sources. So now you can imagine your applications from marketing, from sales, from CRM, from finance, various tools. You can all bring it together. You decide which tables you want to bring. You decide which columns you want to bring, which you want to join. And now that you have it, now let's go and create a Power BI report on each one of these. Right, so let's run this through. You can see on top, it's going to go up and show you the data for each of these things, and let's go create a new report. So now from Fabric, go ahead if you want to pause.
And I just want to say, having seen this the first time this happened, where I clicked New Report, and those data sources are right there on the side of that Power BI report, not building a model, not having to bring it in. That's awesome. Yeah,
thank you. I struggled with this as well, like bringing all these various sources. So this is awesome to see. As you can see, we're just, I'm a data analyst. I'm trying to play with the data. I'm like seeing, okay, what data is coming in? Oh, wow, okay, I got this table. I'm not trying to beautify a report. As you can see, as I said, this focus is on data. You see all the data which is coming in. We create a Power BI. We analyze the data. And let's go back, and we'll see, this looks good. We can now take this data, save a report, and get it back. Let's just pause here for a second and talk about our employee table, which just got added. So me as a data analyst, I say, hey, data analyst, you just added this employee. What are you going to do about it? What am I supposed to do? So what we're going to do is we worked with them and her and said, let's go add some data to it. So, and we're also going to do some, as the gentleman here asked about modification to schema. They have some plans in there. So let's go. This person just they inserted some rows from SSMS, Azure Data Studio, whatever tools, popular tools out there, and the data is now available here. Let's go create a report on the table employee just to make sure the table employee also works. It's not that it only works on the unified data. So we're going to take that employee table. You see right away it pops in, and the data is all there. We are actually playing with some of that stuff, and the data shows up without any issues. Let's go. After this, what we're going to do is we worked with our DBA, and they said the table employee is now going to be introducing some new change. They're going to have some new columns added to this. Guess what? They just did an alter. They added some date of birth, and they added some new address columns in there. They executed that, and here I am in Fabric. It's available right there. What do you all think about this? You all asked for this feature, and we've been working on this for the last 1+ years. So updates, alters, we're going to have more of these things, more features coming out. There you go. You have the data here. We go back to the Power BI report, and the Power BI report should reflect those new columns added back in there. And there they are. And now we go back and add those columns in there. You play with the report, and now we see, yes, we updated the addresses, all of them to Microsoft addresses. They all show on the quadrant on the left-hand side. That's what we're talking about. So to summarize, we kind of looked at the entire area of mirroring from source database, how it gets replicated into Fabric, how we leverage some of the compute engines, and we put it all together without leaving Fabric. So your customers, your team members, your data analysts, your data engineers, they all work together. You all are now interacting with your databases and Fabric together. And that's why we are saying is Fabric is better together. So with that, we are taking nominations for private preview. We just announced yesterday this is now available for private preview. So if you'd like to, can you project that? The screen.
What have I done?
Whatever. Well, almost the end of the session, but we had a couple of slides we
Okay.
wanted to share, so you can actually submit
Okay.
your nominations. Oh, it's because it's Windows Media Player?
All right, let's bring this
Oh, okay.
back up.
There
There
we
we go.
go.
Okay.
Woo! Okay. So we'll be really excited. Take this for a test drive. We are doing it a private preview. We'll love your feedback. This is going to help shape the product, and we have certain milestones which we're working towards. We'd love for you to get your feedback on this. So please do that. Go ahead, Jess, and take it away.
And if you are interested in just giving Fabric a try, please go to our aka.ms/try-fabric URL. Quick QR code there as well. Some evaluation time that you'll have to look at it. Again, lots of great enhancements. These are things our customers have been asking for years. We have recognized the pain of building this analytics platform, and we're trying to make it a lot easier for you. So with that, I'll say, please, visit the many Microsoft sessions we have going on throughout the week. Also, remember, Idris and I and members of the Fabric team will be in the booth the rest of the afternoon. We'd love to have you give us an evaluation on the session. And we have about 2 minutes left if there are other questions
Yes.
here.
Okay, so in the demo, when we were merging the two tables from the different shortcuts and what.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Carlos.
Yeah, in the demo, when you were merging, I think it was the customer table to the sales table from the different shortcuts, and it appeared to be kind of a Power Query and the Query Builder. Was that at that point actually copying the data to the one lake, or was that still just kind of querying the shortcuts directly and not generating another copy?
Yes. So the shortcut data was never copied to one lake. It stays where it is. And for a reason you have actually bought into S3. You don't want to pollute the lake because you take it from one lake to another. But the mirrored SQL DB data, which is already in one lake, that is already being replicated. So a portion of this is replicated, a portion of them is virtualized.
No, that's work. Oh, there we go. Does this work with the history tables in part? So essentially, if you've changed data and changed the schema, can I run a query within Synapse, not Synapse, sorry,
Fabric.
within Fabric, to say, show me the data as it was yesterday and the schema as it was yesterday?
So what you're saying is you want to go back in time and
Yes.
see, hey,
The
what
time
was it?
travel.
So at this point in time, it's a snapshot. It is an exact replica of what your source system is. So if you're looking for change history and all of those things, we have capabilities at SQLDB, and Carlos can talk to you. We have change data capture, which you can use to query that. But we only show the latest copy of snapshot at this point in
Okay,
time.
thank you.
Yeah, but let us know about it. That's a valid use case. Oh, there's a question right there. Okay.
From a security standpoint, do you have the ability to assign AD groups to the different columns? If, for instance, you had PCI data and certain people were not able to view that?
That is on the roadmap. It's something which we, right now we're talking about sensitive. Yeah, go ahead, Charles.
So once you mirror the data, you have the ability to do things like object level security, column level security, row level security, secure with AD groups, all of that good stuff. So if you're using Intra already, you're using OAuth, SSO, you have like two-factor authentication, all that will work seamlessly with this.
Yes.
With that, our time is actually
there was one more
up.
question.
We have one more
more
question.
question.
Okay, we'll take one more question, and then we will just scoot to the back of the room to let the next presenter get in.
Yes.
Quick question. Will this support the concept of temporal tables being pushed into one lake?
Are those
That
supported
is,
yet?
it is on the roadmap.
Yeah.
So temporal tables will work in your Azure SQL DB, but the historical part is something which is on our roadmap, which will be enabling.
Cool.
Thank
Thank you
you
for coming
Thank
to
you all
listen
for
to
coming.
us today and learn this.
Have a great rest of
Yeah.
the conference and enjoy. Thanks for coming up.